Today's episode of the WAC podcast is brought to you by Hercules Tires, the official tire of the Western Athletic Conference. Now here are your hosts, Eric Danner and Rachel Vigil.
Welcome back to the WAC podcast. Excited to have Jarrod Olson, the head coach for CBU women's basketball, on with us. Coach, how are you?
Doing great. How are you guys?
Good, doing well. I guess we need to start, first of all, congratulations on all the success this season. I know it's been a whirlwind kind of the past few weeks, but this was a question I actually asked you on the sidelines after the, I believe, semifinal game. Yeah, that was the only game I got to chat to you about. But how proud are you of this team and everything they were able to accomplish this year?
Obviously, I'm really proud of these guys. It's been a pretty difficult year, with the COVID stuff and just and everybody had to go through that. It wasn't just a basketball thing or just our team thing, but just all the things that they kind of had to work through along the way and to keep the focus and just to kind of keep, working towards their goals without getting sidetracked and just doing so well at it. It's been one of the most fun teams that I've ever coached. They made my job really easy most of the time. And I was just really thankful to have the opportunity to coach them.
Coach, first off, again, congratulations on a great season. 26-1, best ever record in the history of WAC women's basketball. Did you have an idea at the beginning of the season that it would be this special? I know one accomplishment is just being able to play that many games, but then to get all those wins as well.
We were joking. There's two things I would share with you with that is at the beginning of the year, we were kind of like, it kind of started as a joke, but then it became really serious that like any game we played we were going to count as a win, because you didn't know if you were going to get to play from game to game. And then the other thing I would say is prior to, our first couple games, I remember sitting down with, one of my assistants, Jason, and we were just looking at the schedule and I said, I don't think we're going to win every game, but I know every game is winnable. And then we just kept winning all the games and you just kind of like didn't want to talk about it because it was going so well. But you never think you're going to win every game, but I knew we would have a really good team. I knew we had the right pieces in place. We were pretty close to being really good last year, before injuries just kind of destroyed things for us. But I definitely had a feeling we were going to be pretty good. But to be this good is still a little bit of a surprise. And it just goes to show you that, you never know what these kids are going to be capable of, and they can surpass even your wildest expectations. And they certainly did that this year.
We've talked about, not knowing if you're going to play the next day and what those look like. What did you ask of your team at the beginning of the season to make sure that, the ability to hopefully play every single game happened?
We were, we spent a lot of time just, talking a lot about COVID restrictions and like different things we could do to kind of like try to give ourselves the best chance to play games. And, I think some of that stuff paid off for us, but, what I really was asking them to do was just to trust me, because we're going to ask them to do some things that we wouldn't normally ask them to do. And then also just for them to be adaptable and be flexible, because there's going to be some weird situations. Like we had a game that got canceled at halftime and you just have to roll with it, and there's other times we were actually about to get on the bus to go to UTRGV and Lane had called and said, hey, we had a positive, so we can't play, and just kind of like being able to navigate that without like getting too down, cause it is frustrating when those things happen, when you're looking forward to something and it kind of gets, canceled or taken away, and just kind of like trying to kind of work through some of those things, I think took a lot of trust, but also, a lot of flexibility and adaptability. And it just kind of shows you how strong these kids are, when you put them in situations. They're definitely a lot tougher than we probably give them credit for.
Talking with Jarrod Olson, the head women's basketball coach of the WAC champion, California Baptist Lancers. Coach, obviously this was the third year of your transition from Division II to Division I, and these rules are put in place, I assume, to restrict the number of teams going D2 to D1 or D3 to D2, and that there's a 4-year probationary period before you can play in the NCAA tournament. But I don't think when those rules were put in place that people would anticipate that a team would be 26-1 and have the kind of season you did. Do you think you maybe potentially maybe could change history here, and maybe the NCAA has to maybe relook at those rules?
I definitely think they should relook at it. And I mean, obviously I'm a little biased because we, obviously would have gone to the NCAA tournament if we were eligible this year, but it certainly seems like it's a rule that is hurting the kids. The student athletes are the only ones that really are affected by that. I mean, because they only get so many opportunities to do that. They get 4 chances to play in the NCAA tournament, and you're lucky if you can do it one time, and to have that restriction put in place on the athletes, I think is a little unfair. I could see some restrictions that are placed on the schools in terms of like the finances of the NCAA tournament, stuff like that. But I certainly think that the NCAA should give the kids every opportunity they can to play, because they're putting in the work, and if they earn it, they should get to go.
26-1, like Eric mentioned. How did you make sure that this team stayed so humble during the entire season to not allow like any chips on their shoulder or anything like that to come out and affect the way they played?
I think it's just I think that one of the things we talk about a lot with our team, we have a set of values. It's commitment and humility, resilience, integrity, selflessness, and trust. And I think humility was the second one I mentioned there. We spent a lot of time early on just kind of talking about that. And I think that we have some good role models on our team, people that have been in, we had Ani played Division II for us, her first year. And, we have, other people that have kind of been, on the team last year that we weren't as good, so I think that they kind of had some humble beginnings that kind of made them appreciate the success a little bit more. I also think some of my sarcasm probably helps them too. So I'd like to knock them down every once in a while.
Coach, this was our first time that we were able to see you guys in person. Rachel and I get to go to WAC Vegas each year. And of course, with all the restrictions this year, that was the first time we'd actually been to a basketball game in person. And to see your team perform, I mean, the intensity that they do it, but watching you on the sideline as well, I mentioned to Rachel, I said, I've never seen a team play so intense with a laid back coach. And then I mentioned that to some of the other people at CB, and they said, that wasn't always the case. Is that a choice that you made, that you kind of had to dial it down a little bit and your team responded?
I would say when they play with intensity, I don't have to be as intense. That's number one. But I definitely, when I was younger in my career, like I definitely was probably a little too over the top intense. And I certainly think that did not help the girls play the best of their ability. And so I'm just trying to give them confidence and be a calming influence. When I feel like they need a little bit of a kick in the butt and some intensity, I try to bring it. But I definitely think if I can kind of be a little more calm and give them some confidence, I think that definitely helps them play their best. And that's not the case for everybody. Everybody's a little bit different, but that's kind of what I've learned over the years anyway.
Looking at that championship game, how was the locker room after you were able to crown yourselves WAC tournament champions?
They were pretty excited. I think that's probably one of the best things about coaching a really good team is you can just kind of see the joy, and you can just see the girls had worked so hard, and you can just kind of see them let loose there for, a few minutes. And there's just kind of like this, enthusiasm that they have. It's just kind of like unleashed. And I just love sitting back and watching them kind of enjoy the moment, and sometimes I get to participate a little bit, but I really enjoy just watching them because it just gives me, great joy seeing them be so happy and seeing them, just kind of with that reward that they get for winning.
And then you get to go to the WNIT. You win 2 games in the WNIT. First time since 1998 we've had a WAC team win 2 games. I'll ask you this trivia here, Coach. Do you know the last WAC team to win 2 games in the WNIT?
Maybe like Nevada?
It was Colorado State. See, so Rachel went to CSU, and Becky Hammond was on the team. So that's some pretty good company to be in there with Becky Hammond, Coach. Now, that being said, obviously you won the 2 games, and appreciate you coming on today with you just played Rice last night in Texas. But Ani Oleda goes down with an injury. I believe wasn't able to play last night. Obviously not the way you want to end your career, but is there a chance we might see some of these seniors back next year? How does that work with the COVID year and all that good stuff?
I certainly hope so. I mean, I'll be a lot better coach next year if they all come back. I mean, that's the goal. I mean, but everybody's gonna, since it just ended, it's still pretty fresh. I think we'll need a little bit of time to kind of, process. I think, every basketball team right now, as soon as the season ends, I think just the mental health toll that it's taken for such a long year and being so unusual, I think everybody's just going to kind of need a little bit of time to reset and to kind of like refocus and kind of see what they really want to do going forward. But, if it was up to me selfishly, I would, Ane and Brittany and Georgia, our three seniors, I would force them to come back. But obviously we're just going to hope that they can do what's, best for them and, wish them well, whatever they do. But I definitely would like to have them come back.
Coach, one thing I really enjoy about doing this podcast is that you can talk about things that maybe you couldn't talk about in other places. Mm-hmm. And I'm sure you probably saw the NCAA and what happened with their tournament on the women's side. Yeah. The news that broke there. I want to just get your opinion on women's sports just in general and kind of that situation and how, if it had any effect for any of your players or anything like that, if you saw any of them get heated over that situation.
We have a few that everybody on our team obviously feels some of that, and certain people that are more outspoken. And we have a couple that get pretty fired up and definitely want to fight for that. And, I definitely want to support them in any way I can. It's always kind of like, I always feel like I'm the middleman a little bit being a man, but at the same time, I want to champion those causes because I know as someone that's grown up, my dad was a high school girls basketball coach, so I grew up around women's sports and I know that women and girls are giving everything they can just as the men do. And I definitely think that, a situation like that, the NCAA just really blew it, and I think, that happens. And I think there has to be a little bit of grace that goes into that. But at the same time, we got to make sure that those things get fixed in the future and make sure that they're getting everything that the men would get, because I think that they deserve it. And I think that if we don't do that, we're definitely doing a disservice. And I'm glad that, that this is given an opportunity for people to talk about those things.
Eric,
Coach, sorry, go ahead, Rach.
I want to do one more question to kind of piggyback off of that. On a positive note, though, the amount of support that came out over social media and different companies, how incredible was that to see as a coach of a women's basketball team?
I think that just shows that it is a big deal, that women's sports is supported, and maybe it's not supported in the traditional way or maybe on the same level as maybe some of the men's sports, but that doesn't mean it's insignificant. And I think that, it is kind of cool when people rally behind that. And sometimes it takes an event like that to kind of, get people on the same page. And hopefully that'll be a real positive thing to kind of springboard forward and make a real difference going in the future.
Well, Coach, I want to congratulate you again on a fantastic season, best win-loss percentage in WAC history at 26-1. Made a lot of history this year with a fantastic team, and best of luck as you now head into the offseason.
All right, thank you very much, guys. I appreciate it.
That's Jarrod Olson, head women's basketball coach at California Baptist. Thanks for listening to the WAC podcast.
Make sure to follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube. And check out our website at wacsports.com.